Good morning, Patriots. How are you doing today? This is Mike the Patriot coming to you live from the downtown metropolis of LaMonte, Missouri. I'm running a little bit behind today. I'm sorry about that. I doing some new things. Hope you guys are having a great day wherever you are at. I see y'all checking in from coast to coast. We got plenty of people checking in. That's pretty awesome. I got the live streaming over. I got live streaming everywhere, just experimenting to see how much I can do. Here it is. This is kind of cool in case you cared. But I am live streaming now on Twitter. Of course, I don't have as many views on Twitter as Tucker Carlson. He's only got a few million more than me. Maybe 100 million more than me. Since like nobody knows I was going to go live there. There's 0 views. So anyways, if you want to watch it over on X, formerly known as Twitter, I am live over there now. I'm also live on YouTube because for some reason they let me go live again. So I'm going to keep trying until they kick me off. I really want them to kick me off. Maybe after today's show, they'll kick me off. But I see you guys checking in from Cowpen, South Carolina, Chicago, Austin, Texas, Salt Lake City. The scripture of the day is 1 Thessalonians 3:3-8. That's from Marine in the Woods. Let's see what else we got here. Where else are y'all checking in from? They're making Marine jokes about crayons on the Rumble page. Sedalia, Missouri's checking in. Our good buddy Matthew. Let's see. Huntsville, Alabama's checking in. South Carolina's checking in. Couple of South Carolina. Los Angeles County. That's a big place. I mean, we're exactly in Los Angeles County. Because there's like, I don't know, a gazillion people in a gazillion cities. You could be anywhere. You could be anywhere from the high desert to the ocean and in between. You could be in the mountains or in the valleys. Where you at in LA County? Just asking. See, that's where I tell everybody I was from. Northern LA County. I was really from a little town called Lancaster, the high desert. Anyways. North Carolina checking in, Ohio checking in, Alabama, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Tennessee, all checking in today. So from sea to shining sea, from Canada, we had some people from Britain checking in the other day. So Michigan's here, Louisiana, Indiana. I've been everywhere, man. The Sunshine State, that must be Florida, except for when it's raining every day, for about 20 minutes. Northwest Florida checking in. That's Matt Gates country. Laredo, Texas checking in. Kentucky checking in. All right. I appreciate everybody being out there doing your things. Make sure you follow me. Angela says she has family in Lancaster, California. My apologies. Tell them to get out. Get out. Run for your life. Oh, yes. Anyways, so the liquid biocell that I always talk about, they sell, the company that I'm involved with that sells this product is having their national convention next spring in Orange County, Long Beach, California. And they were like, come out to California to the beautiful beaches in Long Beach. And I laughed. I said, what beautiful beaches in Long Beach? Anyways, moving on before I get myself into trouble. Next. Hey, make sure you hit the thumbs up button, the share button, all that good stuff on Facebook and on Rumble. Let's get the algorithm broke up. And if you're on Rumble and you feel like a little bit, bottom left-hand corner next to the subscribe button is a tip jar if you feel like you want to help the cause. If you're on Facebook, you can always send stars or a penny a piece if you want to help the cause. Appreciate that. Or you can just, some people are old-fashioned. And I love the old-fashioned people because I'm kind of old-fashioned myself. And sometimes they just, wrong button. If you want to contact me, that's the way to do it. This button. Some people just want to do it the old-fashioned way. If you're looking for the snail mail, there it is right there. Now, let's get on with the show. Breaking Babylon Bee. It says, powerful justice for peace spray painted on freshly looted Nike stores. Or justice for Palestine, excuse me. In a beautiful display of solidarity between oppressed peoples group, Black Lives Matters has spray painted the words "Justice for Palestine" in front of a Nike store they just looted. "We demand freedom for Palestine," shouted one looter as he kicked his way through the broken glass of the store's entrance. As a sign to show how passionate we are about a free Palestine, we are here to destroy this local business and steal all the Air Jordans. Woohoo! BLM has made a controversial statements and social media posts in support of the efforts of the terrorist organizations Hamas following its shocking attack on Israeli citizens or civilians. "The voice of colonized peoples must be heard," screamed another BLM activist as he threw a brick through the windshield of a police cruiser responding to the looting. "By destroying businesses in our neighborhood, we send a very clear message that Israeli hostilities towards the poor, downtrodden Palestinians will no longer be tolerated. And kill Whitey." Media and the general public alike are unsure what connection this new wave of riots and looting had to do with Israeli-Palestine conflict. I think they just want to steal stuff, said onlooker Zach Lewis. "Taking iPhones, Air Jordans, cases of vodka doesn't seem like it's going to help the Palestinian cause in any way. But hey, they sure seem passionate about stealing." At publishing time, BLM organizations across the country were reported to be purchasing large numbers of paragliders as means of improving their ability to swoop in for more looting and destruction in American cities. There you have it. So that's right, ladies and gentlemen, in solidarity with Palestine, everybody go out, kick in the doors of your local stores and steal yourself a pair of Air Jordans, because how else do you show your compassion for the oppressed than burning down the local parts store or the Starbucks? I mean, what other way is there? I know of no other way. But then again, what do I know? I'm not all that smart. So, and I'm just some guy on here. The comments on some of the comments yesterday of idiots. I mean, people. "You're just a bunch of religious nuts. Keep religion out of politics" on some of my pages. I'm like, dude, really? Have you not read the Constitution? Anyways, have you not read the founding's documents, the Federalist Papers? Evidently not. I'm sure you got a doctorate in American history, but you probably never read any of that. Also, the Babylon Bee reporting. Did you hear? I talked about it yesterday that Rashid Tlaib had a Palestinian flag and a gay flag and a state flag out in front of her office, but strangely, the American flag was missing. Well, tragic events have happened with those flags. The Babylon Bee reporting from D.C. Palestinian flag outside Rashid Tlaib's office seen throwing pride flag off the roof. Tragic that they would treat the pride flag that way. I don't know if there's some semblance there or what. Protests, pride, and all that. Oh, and why do you need an AR-15? Why in the world does anybody need an AR-15? I mean, come on. I cannot see any reason for anybody to need an AR-15 or an AK-47 or tactical shotgun or a good scope on a rifle. Why would you need that? You don't need that to hunt deer. There's no reason to have something like that. Anyway, one must have fun. If one doesn't have fun, then what's the point? Life is boring. And here's another story that should get your blood to boil, since we're getting to start off on this October 13th, 2023, the day of jihad. We shall see how that goes. Biden regime is forcing Americans trapped inside Israel to sign promissory notes to repay all travel costs if they decide to be rescued by the U.S. government. So we give billions and billions and billions and billions and billions of hard-earned American tax dollars printed overnight to Ukraine. But if you want to get out of, mind you, there's no flights right now. The only way to get out is on military transport. If you want to get out of Israel, you got to pay up. Either that, stay there. Suck it up, cupcake. And like I said, billions of dollars printed. And yesterday, the numbers came out. Inflation is through the roof. Right now, the headline is on CNBC. Dow rises 200 points, heads of winning streak after strong bank earnings. All the banks came out this morning early, and they all had greater than expected earnings. Now, the problem with that I see is that they're all sitting on billions of dollars of unrealized losses. So they have greater than expected earnings because they haven't taken their losses. That's going to work out well. You see, this stock market is so ridiculously corrupt. It's not even funny. Here is, speaking of what's going on today, why the stock market. But see, one of the things is, as inflation happens, as they print all this money that causes inflation, the stock market's going to go up. Understand that. Until it doesn't. Because, Wendy, there is no Palestine. It's all Israel. There has never been a Palestine. It's what the Romans called it. But that doesn't make it it. So there's an elephant in the room that the media doesn't want to cover, that the stock market doesn't care about. What's the cause of inflation? What can we do to stop inflation? What is the cause of inflation? It's the printing of money and monetizing the debt. That's what it's for. That's why inflation happens. It's not climate change. It's not pooty poo. It's not greedy business owners. It's not high employment or salary increases. Those don't cause inflation. Government causes inflation. Here's Matt Gaetz on the floor of the House talking about, I'll skip that one. Here is CNBC, that the economy is hotter than expected. Look, with the stock market going up, with these earning reports coming out, the stock market will be tanking next week because the central bank will come out and say, oh, shoot, we got to raise interest rates. Yeah, precious metals, understand. Precious metals, the number up and down on precious metals. I was watching Robert Kiyosaki a couple days ago. He had a live, and I happened to catch it. And he pointed this out, that if you go over to China or Russia or any of the Asian countries and you try to buy physical gold and silver, right now gold is it's way up today. It's up $38. Wow. It's at 1921.5. I might cash some of my gold in. It's at 1921.5. I'm talking about the scrap jewelry. So what if you go over to China and you want to buy physical gold? There's over $150 premium on the physical gold. So if it's selling for $1,900 in American dollars, it's selling for $2,100 in China. If you go to the big exchanges and try to buy gold and silver, they're out in a lot of cases. You saying, where am I looking? Is that when I look over, see where gold is? I got a big, huge 30-inch monitor, and part of my monitor has that up on the screen during my show. So that's what I'm looking at. I got like 3 different windows up. If you want to know why I keep looking off over there, I've got a computer right here, a computer over here, and a big 30-inch monitor in front of me, and my camera's off to the side. If you want to know how it works. Tim Greer says fuel prices control the world. Yeah, fuel prices definitely cause inflation. And fuel prices have been, they're up $3 right now, but they're at 85. They'd hit 93 a week or so ago. The fuel prices have been repressed, and I bet you we're going to find out that they drained more of the strategic oil reserve. Because why not? They're only going to go to war. Thank you, Terry. I appreciate that. Now, so here's CNBC with the CPI and the jobless. The economy's doing better than expected. Oh, we're going to die. Now think about this. The economy's doing better than expected. Stock market drops. Everything goes down. Why? Because they know that this is not good, that it's overheating, that the Fed is going to get in there and manipulate things by raising interest rates. Stock market, Dow Jones Industrial Average is now up 302.37, in case you wanted to know. Oh, I'm looking at CNBC. It's live. The live ticker right now is at 19.196, up 36.6. That's what gold is at right now. Here is CNBC.
Because it's hotter than expected. CPI.
Well, hold on. There we go. Sorry.
Because it's hotter than expected. CPI for the month of September headline expected up 0.3. And many are saying if you extrapolate this number, we're in the 2s. Well, it's up 0.4%. Up 0.4%. Still don't see a revision to up 0.6 in the rear view mirror. Because, of course, up 0.6 was the highest since June of 22. Strip out the all-important food and energy, which is what I was referring to with that extrapolation. It hovers at up 0.3%. That is the second month in a row it's been there. We haven't had a revision yet. The prior 2 months were the lowest since February 21. We had back-to-back up 0.2, but it's now up 0.3. And year-over-year, 3.7. Year-over-year headline, 1/10 hotter than expected.
Hotter than expected. Now understand, the 3.7 is on top of the 8 point something that was last year at this time. So, it's gone down. It's only 3.7. That's on top of. It's a multiplication. It's not a subtraction. Inflation, of course, the 3.7 is the core number. They don't count energy, oil, food, durable goods. I don't know what they count. Oh, by the way, do you know how they figure out? They say the medium, how they come up with the rent. They say the average rent across the country is like $1,280 a month. Do you know how they come up with that number? You would think that they would go to the landlords and say, how much you rent your apartments for? How much you rent your houses for? But that's not what they do. They call up homeowners and they go, beep, 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 beep. Yes. If you were to rent your house that you're living in out, what would you rent it for? And the homeowner goes, I'm not going to rent my house. Yes, but if you were going to, well, $10,000 a month because I'm not interested. That's how the government comes up with that number. They do the same thing with this medium sales. They're saying $450,000 in medium, give or take. They don't take the homes that sold and do that. They call up homeowners. If you were to sell your house today, what would you sell it for? They call up 1,000 homeowners. That's how they come up with that number. Our government numbers are so bogus on every level. We don't have any idea. If you had a business that was publicly traded and you did accounting the way the government does accounting, you would have a cell between Sam Bankman-Fried and Bernie Madoff. Just saying. For the rest of your life. And that's the truth. Whether you like it or not. So a little bit more on the economy, and then we'll get to the other breaking stuff that's happening today because, today's a boring Friday, nothing really going on around the world. So I don't have a whole lot to talk about, but we'll get there. Here's an interesting one. Microsoft. There's Aaron Cates is checking in, the Canadian Patriot. Inspector Cates. Y'all check out his show. It's usually Wednesday nights. Tell him how to get to your show, Aaron, if you want to. Microsoft, IRS seeks additional $28.9 billion payment plus fines and interest. Microsoft adjustment forms IRS for tax years 04 to 13. Huh. That's weird. You know why the government's going broke, by the way? I don't know if you've noticed, but the government is going broke. No doubt about it. The core CPI, now let me explain this. I was talking about this just a minute ago. While CPI inflation is at 3.7, inflation is much higher on many basic necessities. Car insurance, 18%. That's on top of where it was last year. Car repairs, 10%. That's on top of where it was last year. All these are on top of where it was last year. Transportation inflation, 9%. Rent inflation, 7%. Home inflation, 7.1%. Food away from home inflation, 6%. Meat and poultry, 4%. While headline inflation is down from its highs, many basics and necessities are still seeing 5% inflation plus. It's also worth noting that we do not have deflation, we have disinflation. While the rate of inflation is down, prices are still rising. Affordability is getting worse. So we don't have deflation means that the value of the dollar, inflation means the value of the dollar is becoming worth less. Deflation means the value of the dollar is becoming worth more, meaning an inflation, this pen that cost $1 cost $1.50. In deflation, this pen that cost $1.50 costs $1 again because your dollar gained value. Timothy says, my house for sale, 10 million gold bars, no low ballers. I know what I have. You've been posting on Facebook, have you? Yeah, it's probably a 2-bedroom single wide on bricks with no skirting, leaning to the left, with an old flatbed trailer for a porch. The grass is too high. So disinflation is when prices it's like stagnation. Prices of durable goods, prices of color televisions are going down. Prices of used cars are going down. And that's happening, by the way. That's disinflation. Yeah. We're going to reach a point here where there's a point in a collapse of a monetary system where you can no longer produce goods and services because the core materials, the raw materials, the steel, the plastic, the copper, the lead, the silver, the gold, whatever goes into your product, the grain, the beans, the corn, the flour, the raw materials, the milk, the meat, whatever it is, the cost is so high that you cannot produce the product at a price that people can afford to buy it, or people just won't buy it because it's not a necessity. And then we ain't seen laying up people getting laid off yet. We ain't seen it, but it's coming. Here's a little bit more on this. All the headlines say that inflation is now 3.7, but they fail to mention that that's building upon years of inflation. 3.7% inflation is building on 8.2 in September of 22 and 5.4 in September of 21. That means inflation since September of 21 has been nearly 20%. Furthermore, even if rate of inflation is falling, prices are still rising. Many people confuse deflation and inflation, disinflation and deflation. Even with disinflation, which we have now, prices are still rising. The Fed's job is far from done. The Fed's job is not to keep you in your job. The Fed's job is not to keep your money worth something that's in the bank. The Fed's job is not to help you buy products and make it through life. The Fed's job is not to lower taxes. The Fed's job is to make it so that the banks make money. That's the Fed's job, no matter what happens. This one says CPI numbers came out today, and this chart immediately comes to mind. Inflationary forces remain deeply rooted in the system, and this is not the time to take a victory lap. We are dealing with two wars breaking out, a surge in deglobalization trends, the emergence of labor strikes, and an economy that heavily relies on near record levels of government spending. That's another one that you got to think about here for a second. That's another one that you need to think about. Our economy, that stock market that's at 210.65, it's gone down a little bit. That stock market, all that money that's going into there. By the way, the overnight reverse whatever it is, you know the one I talk about all the time. Do I have it up? Hold on. Yeah, I do have it up. All right, let me hit refresh and we'll get there. It has been going down. This is because the money supply is running out. This one, this right here. I haven't been talking about it because I've been kind of waiting to see where it goes. But this is where we've been throughout history. This is March 31st, 2022. Excuse me, 2020. This is where we've been. Now, what this is the overnight reverse repurchase agreements, treasuries and securities sold by the Federal Reserve and temporary overmarket operations. They sell these. Well, let me just go down here to explain, because some of you guys are probably new to the show and I haven't talked about it in a while. This is a series. This series extract agreements as agreements, daily amount values. Well, okay, where it is. A reverse repurchase agreement, known as a repo or an RRP, is a transaction in which the New York Fed, under authorization and direction of the Federal Open Market Committee, sells a security to eligible counterparties with an agreement to repurchase that same security at a specific price at a specific time in the future, usually the next 24 hours. For these transactions, eligible securities are U.S. Treasury instruments, in other words, U.S. Treasury bonds, debt, federal agency debt, and mortgage-backed securities. Oh, your house, issued and fully guaranteed by the federal agencies. They do this with their partners. Who are their partners, you ask? That's easy. J.P. Morgan Chase are their partners. Vanguard, BlackRock, State Street Financial, to name a few. Citibank, Wells Fargo. Yeah. So what they do is they take these U.S. treasuries or these mortgage-backed securities and they go to the Treasury needs cash, right? The Fed needs cash. They go and say, we need cash. And they say, okay, great. So they sell these bonds. Now, mind you, they can't sell the bonds on the open market. Nobody wants to buy them. Greater than 50 in the last sale, last week they had. The rate went up. That's why the stock market collapsed. The rate went up. That's why mortgages are hitting 8%. The rate would have continued to go up to a an end time scenario, except that the Fed moved in and bought greater than 51% of the sale to lock the price. In other words, the Federal Reserve monetized the debt they were trying to sell in order to print more money. And by the way, in the last 18 days, it's probably greater than this, much greater than this now. We've done $500 million in new debt. So the Federal Reserve repurchase agreements, as I was showing you a minute ago, up until, let's see here, look at here, March 8th, 2021 was 0.025 of $1 billion. February, see, March, all of a sudden it started climbing dramatically. And then it really started climbing. Now, what happened in 21? Who took office in 21? What changed? Oh, yeah, forgot about that. Something did change. And it really started climbing. And then right here, right there, September is actually August. I can't get it to settle on it, but in August of 21, it went over $1 trillion. That's $1,218 billion, or $1.2 trillion. Every single day. Every single day. Now, what did change? Somebody asked. Well, Joe Biden got elected president. Now, what happens here? You got to understand the shell game that's happening here. Mind you, if you did this with you were a public trading company, you did this with you'd go to jail. Bernie Madoff would be your cellmate. What happens here is the Fed goes, buy my bond. And so you buy the bond, it's a bank. The Fed says, you buy this $100 bond and I'll pay you $101 tomorrow times $1 billion. Okay. And so the bank goes, that's a great deal. I'm going to get $1 billion for free. And then they throw all that money into the stock market. The stock market goes through the roof. Why not gamble with it if it's free? Right? The next day, so they sell this bond. What is a U.S. Treasury bond? It's a debt. It's an IOU. I owe you $100 plus interest if you buy a $100 bond, right? The next day, the Fed buys that bond back from the bank. Here's your $101. Thanks for the bond back. When they sold it to the bank, it was a liability. It was a debt. But when they buy it back, it's an asset. And they put it in the asset column. Look at all the money we have. Because somebody's going to have to, when this becomes mature, somebody's going to have to pay that $100 back. Yeah, you're they're money laundering. They're monetizing the debt without monetizing the debt. Mind you, why did the Weimar Republic's currency collapse? Because they monetized their own debt. Why did Zimbabwe's currency? Zimbabwe had 1,000,000% inflation in 1 year. Why did that happen? Because they monetized their own debt. Why did Venezuela's currency collapse? Venezuela at one time in the 70s and 80s was the richest country in the southern hemisphere. Why did it collapse? Because they monetized their own debt. Last week, the Fed purchased their own bonds greater than 51% of the sale. They're monetizing the debt. They've been doing it since 21, since August of 21, $1 trillion a day until May 21st, 2022, May 27th, 2022. They went $2 trillion a day, monetizing the debt to $2 trillion a day. Now, this is money in, money out. There's shell games. Maybe it's the same bonds back and forth. The banks are making free money. They're dumping the money into the stock market. That's why the stock market goes through the roof. And then it reached its peak on December 30th, 2022 at $2.553 trillion. And then it kind of leveled out again. But ever since then, it's been going down. You notice this trend down. And now As of yesterday, we're at $1.157 trillion. I think this is a big deal. I don't understand the total ramifications of this. And some of the guys I follow that years ago got me paying attention to this haven't really talked about this much. A couple of them have mentioned it, and I haven't got my head wrapped around. But basically, it means the money supply is running out. The liquidity is running out. The money is evaporating. The cash is evaporating. It's not there anymore. This is going to lead to some other trends. They're going to lead to some other problems. They're going to cause a big mess. When it finally happens, China's been dumping our bonds. Russia's been dumping our bonds. Japan is starting to dump our bonds. Korea is dumping our bonds. When it finally happens that all the other nations on the planet, all these BRICS nations go, hey, diversify of American cash and American bonds. When that finally happens, well, this is Business Insider. U.S. debt situation looks unsustainable and corporate defaults are rising. IMF warns. When that finally happens, UGLY, you ain't got no alibi, you ugly. It's going to get really, really ugly, really, really fast. You know, the old saying is, how did you go bankrupt? Really slowly, a little bit at a time, and then all at once. And that's what's happening here. A little bit at a time, a little bit at a time, a little bit at a time. And then all at once, it's going to be over. And what are we going to do? I don't know. So yesterday around the world, there was mostly peaceful protests as Palestinians and Palestinian sympathizers, something else, around the world protested against Israel's incursion into Gaza. The evil colonizers want to destroy the sweet, innocent Palestinian children, except for the part that the terrorists crossed into Israel and slaughtered men, women, and children sleeping in their beds. But hey, they deserve that because they're Jews or something. Here they are. What Gail says, what will help now? Well, Gail, I've been doing this show now for 3 years, and for 3 years I've been saying to make sure you have a couple extra can of beanie weenies. Make sure you have a couple weeks supply worth of cash, whatever it takes you to survive for a couple weeks, cash outside of your bank, in your possession, cash, green money. Make sure you have, a little bit of something or another. That's a bunch of ones, but you get the idea. A little fold-in money, a little walking around money, as they say. Make sure you have that. Make sure you've got some other sources of barterable goods. If you haven't started yet, it's not too late. The stores are still open. The banks are still open. Want to know what you can do? What will help is get prepared. Be able to survive for the time frame that it goes to poop. That's what you do. Like my meme when I first started the show this morning. Holy nightmare, Batman, what's that? It seems to be a giant turd heading straight for that fan. In the prepper universe, they call it the shift, or the shit hits the fan. You don't want to be around the grocery store. Yeah. You want to be prepared, at least to survive the initial few days. Or not. If you don't believe it's going to happen, don't. I don't care. Makes no difference to me. So anyways, yesterday around the world, people were protesting. Here they are in the world someplace protesting. It would be terrible, kind of scary if something like that happened here in the United States. Except that that's Chicago. Just saying. They protested in Chicago. They protested in New York. They protested in other major cities across this country. Well, that's no big deal. People have a right to protest, even if they are out there saying, holding up swastikas. Mind you, they call you a Nazi because you voted for Trump. Then they praise these Palestinians in New York City who are holding up swastikas and saying that they're happy that they killed Jewish children. But you're the bad guy. Just remember that, in case you've forgotten. Here's a tweet. Tomorrow is Hamas International Jihad Day. That's today. And I'll say it again. Keep your head on a swivel. And if you see a dude flying a kite powered by a Walmart fan with an AK strapped over his shoulder, shoot his ass. Well, yeah, I guess that's true. You could do that. Just pay attention to what's going on around you, because things are going to get ugly before they get better, for sure. Andy Nugu, how do you say his name? Whatever. You know who I'm talking about. He says, following the Hamas attacks, Noah's Ark Bakery and Temple Beth Israel Synagogue were smashed up in Fresno, California on October 10th. A note left behind the bakery said, all Jewish businesses will be targeted. Orlando Javier Ramirez, a 30-year-old Latino, was arrested. Angela says, I'm going to get in trouble. Who said I was going to get in trouble? Somebody said that. Oh, Elizabeth said, I'm going to get in trouble. Why am I getting in trouble? I ain't done nothing. I'm just reporting what people say. So the Palestinian leaders, or the Muslim clerics around the world, are saying today is a day of jihad. Today is a day to stand up and show the world what they can do. And you think, well, they're just a bunch of talk. They aren't doing anything. Special security fencing goes up around the Capitol ahead of the Day of Rage on Friday, today. That's interesting. This is 10/12, yesterday that was posted. So they're putting fences up in D.C. because they're concerned. Just don't make a mistake. There's no greater danger than underestimating your opponent. Matthew over on Rumble says it's National Carry an Extra Magazine Day. An extra magazine? You need to carry, you need all the magazines. So what's going to happen? I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. Here's Greg Kelly talking about it. I'm not going to play the whole thing.
It's very bad, but it's very real, and we are more vulnerable than we've been in a long time because, yes, this is not simplistic. This is not partisan. But when we left Afghanistan, the way we left Afghanistan, that was a signal to the world that everything is different. The United States lost its status as a superpower, and every day our border wide open. What kind of country is this? It's a country that our enemies think they can push around. So tomorrow, we are a target, folks. We are a target. Something bad could happen. I hope and pray it does not. We're counting on intelligence authorities, law enforcement, and law enforcement. What have we done to them, right? I mean, 3 years ago, we made that one of the worst jobs you could have. The lack of gratitude, the disrespect. Also, a bunch of bored people could feed their Instagram profile and act like they're doing something significant. What about our intelligence authorities that I mentioned? The Central Intelligence Agency. 20 years ago, maybe you have to go back further, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, during the Cold War, they knew what they were doing. It was brought to us by giants, men like
what they're doing now too.
Dulles, McCone. Look at these guys. You can tell they're no nonsense guys. And for a long time, the Central Intelligence Agency didn't fool around.
Are you ready for a world of...
Okay, I'm not going to get into this big old long deal there. Wait to see what happens. Because if the Black Lives Matters and the Antifa folks and all them are out tonight, tomorrow, then we know that this entire thing with Israel is an operation. This entire thing is an operation. That reminds me of something. So Aaron, I don't know if he's still on here or not. Might have had to just drive by. He's got to work. But he sent me something last night. And I'm going to read this to you. I took and copied it onto here so that you can see it. It says, look what, I think Yormi Ezra. I'm not even going to try to say some of these names. You know me, I can't even say English names. Commander of the Kareem Shalom Battalion, who knows the area in detail, talking about it around Gaza. Something doesn't add up to me. This is a mystery that I can't find the answer to since yesterday. I happen to know how things work in Gaza and on the border. I was commander of Kareem Shalom sector. I was in charge of the Kisuf sector. I know the perimeter fence very well. I know how the army works there. I was in the Shati refugee camp in Gaza. I was in charge of the Jubalia refugee camp. I would make ambushes on the fence and deep in the area. I met Gazians, ate and breathed Gaza. The obstacle is built so that even a fox cannot pass it. It set alerts according to 3 levels of pressure. She must alert when she is cut, meaning the fence, the border. There are 24/7 forces that are responsible for arriving within few minutes, if not seconds, to the point where there is alert in the fence. Every day, do at least one penetration practice. Each subdivision has a standby squad whose role is to increase the force in an emergency situation. Observations scattered along the border to cover every inch of it. A female observer are champions in identification. They don't miss. They detect movement even before it even approaches the obstacle. Day and night, at problematic points, dead areas, they place a tank with the observation and detection capabilities and a terrifying firepower. In some cases, snipers are deployed in the field. Every day before dawn, there is a dawn alert. We used to do that when I was in the Army too. What do they call that? Stand 2. just for the sun get up. Everybody had to get up, get in their foxholes, get ready for attack. We do a dawn alert procedure. At this hour, all the forces are awake. In this case, also the hour when hundreds of terrorists entered Israel. So at the same time that they entered, they're supposed to be doing what we would call in the military a stand to in the United States, where everybody's out on the line. The night shift alternates with the day shift. The commander of each force inspects the axis to make sure there was no infiltrations during the night. Trackers that move on the axis know how to recognize traces. I think, like, talk about trackers, tracks in the ground. They know who crossed the fence and how much and even when. Each scenario has a clear procedure. For example, a procedure for infiltrating terrorists, a procedure for taking hostages. Everything is written in blood and has been proving itself for years. There are several other layers of security that this is not the place to talk about. In short, we are talking about an obstacle that proves itself for years and years and years. In other words, the fence has held up and done its job. We know that it works. We have procedures in place. We know what we're doing. So how the hell does a Palestinian tractor move towards the fence without anyone reacting to it? How did the tractor manage to sabotage the fence for a long hour and open access to Israel without anyone reacting to it? How did hundreds of terrorists and civilians cross the barrier without anyone on our side lifting a finger? How did terrorists arrive on foot in vehicles, armed from head to toe in dozens of Israeli settlements without any reaction from our side? How did hundreds of terrorists stay in Israeli territory for long hours, shooting hundreds of Israelis, looting property, without there being even a single reaction on our side? How did it happen that hundreds of terrorists kidnapped dozens of Israelis, woke women, children, babies, old people from their deaths, surprised soldiers, officers when they were not ready, and kidnapped them to Gaza without anyone stopping them? How is it that one bullet was not fired? How did this happen under our noses? Where did the entire division go? Where did 3 brigades go? Where did 9 battalion go? What happened to 36 companies? Where did the entire regular infantry brigade go that usually outnumbers the elite? Where are the reservist battalions that augment the regular army? Where did the thousands of soldiers go? Someone here needs to provide explanations. The answer is sadly that it was an inside job by the leftists who have sympathizers in the upper echelon of the intelligence sector, and they figured if they get people to look the other way for a few minutes and a few Hamas guys get into and do a little damage, they could blame Netanyahu. This is the point. Everything that's happening in the media, listen to what they're saying. Listen to what the news is reporting. 4 out of 5 Israelis blame Netanyahu and get the government to fall. It didn't count on full-scale invasions by savages, barbarians, animals, and now they're paying the price with, I'm not sure what that is, if Aaron's still on here. What's that last word like there? Yedshire, what's that translate to? So here you have somehow these people got through the wire. You have a whole division. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of firepower. Yet nothing happened. Can't see that small on the phone. It's YIDDISHE. That's the first word. The KARBANOS. Just curious. I don't know what it means. I'm sure it's Yiddish or Hebrew or something. I'm sure it's not a good word. That would be my guess. So 4 out of 5 Israelis are now blaming Netanyahu as if that was the plan. And you have to ask yourself, why? Why? Why would they allow this to happen? And then you have to think about it. You have to think about the whole entire situation, the big picture, what was going on in Ukraine, what has been going on our border, what's been happening in the last several years as they steal elections and everything else. And you have to ask yourself, they're not being honest with us. So I follow this guy. He does is one of the guys I follow on economics, and he's over there in Israel. I'm trying to find the post because I'm doing things out of order of how I planned it. Here it is right here. His name is Rafi Fiber. I think I said it right. And I follow him regularly. I watch most of the stuff he posts. I don't watch it live, but I watch most of the stuff he posts. And he talks about economics. He talks about gold and silver. He talks about that kind of stuff. And like I said, he is in Israel. He says, war report. We had our first air raid siren last night in the Golan, and we ran to our neighbor's shelter, my wife, me, and our 5 children. It was a false alarm, a flock of cranes. Now I'm thinking, the army that did absolutely nothing for 7 hours while 1,000 Jews were slaughtered and 150 kidnapped is the same army telling me to go into a bomb shelter over a flock of cranes. Either the IDF is incompetent to the point of brain dead, or something evil inside it is lurking, hurting us intentionally. Either way, I'm assuming all sirens are psyops until I actually hear an explosion. Dear Deep State, you had me for 2 weeks in 2020 when you told me to flatten the curve. You had me for 2 days in 2023 when you told me to flatten the strip. Let's all say it together again. Round 2. Ready? I will not comply. So just remember, they're not being honest with us. Nothing. You got to understand, I've talked for a while now about how you can't trust some of the stuff, the Patriot mythology you hear coming from our side. Aaron will tell you that some of the people he's been connected to, that he has been on their shows reporting from Canada, have turned out not to be as good as he thought. Just remember everything that happened. If you're 52 years old like me, you remember a lot of it. If you're older than me, you remember even more. They are lying to you and will continue to lie to you until we stop it. They lied to you about Russian collusion. They lied to you about Ukraine war. They lied to you about Ukraine biolabs. They lied to you about Rona 19 pandemic. They lied to you about lockdowns, useless face masks, vaccines, ivermectin, HCQ, Twitter censorship. They lied to you about the fake Steele dossier. They lied to you about the 2020 election. They lied to you about the 22 midterms. They lied to you about the laptop and the Hillary's emails and the FBI, CIA spying on your social media. They lied to you about Fast and the Furious. They lied to you about election interference. They lied to you about 9/11 and Saddam and Iraq having weapons of mass destruction. They lied to you about Pizzagate and child sex trafficking and Epstein Sex Island and the Patriot Act. They lied to you about global war on terror. They lied about the southern border and January 6th and even Vietnam. They lied about Watergate, JFK, RFK, MLK Jr. They lied about Benghazi, Afghanistan, and the war on drugs. They lied about HIV and AIDS. They lied about cancer and climate change and the Green New Deal. They lied about food, water, cleaning products. They lied about the Federal Reserve. They lied about the Washington Act of 1871, where Congress cut a deal with foreign powers and international bankers and took the money-making 10 square miles of D.C. sovereign and changed it. And I don't know if all that conspiracy is true or not. We can't talk about it. They lied to you about mass shootings. They lied to you about the Great Reset and Agenda 21 and Agenda 2030. They lied to you about the Anthony Weiner laptop. They lied to you about Julian Assange and Waco and Ruby Ridge and Nashville and Las Vegas and Hollywood. They lied to you about Oklahoma City bombing and Andrew Breitbart's death. They lied to you about gold. They lied to you about Michelle or Michael Obama. They lied to you about Obama's kids and Margaret Sanger and Joan Rivers' death in Haiti. They lied to you about Hunter's cocaine and investing in Wall Street and Chinese spy balloons and 15-minute cities and feminism and Antarctica and Freemasons and Operation Mockingbird. They lied to you about MK Ultra and chemtrails. We got to cover it all, because what's the truth? You don't know. They lied to you about the Earth, Roswell, NASA, outer space, moon landing. Who knows? Anything else? Understand, everything is a lie. Weird Al had a song one time called Everything You Know Is Wrong. Up is down, black is white, and short is long. And everything that you thought was so important doesn't really matter. That's lyrics from a Weird Al song in the 90s. And you have to go, we are living it today. And here we are, October 13th, 2023. And we're about to have a day of jihad because some terrorists were allowed to go into Israel and kill a bunch of Israelis and Americans and others. And now they're going to be terrorizing the inner cities around this country. And around the world. And you have to ask yourself, if they lied about everything else, are they lying about this? What's the purpose? What's the plan?
Police for possible unrest tomorrow in Los Angeles and other cities. What's the latest out there, Jeff?
Well, yeah, Sean, we'll start in D.C., where Capitol Police say they are aware of multiple social media posts calling for that, quote, day of jihad. But they say at this time, they are not currently tracking any specific threats. Nonetheless, Capitol Police will be enhancing security on Friday the 13th, when the supposed day of jihad is supposed to occur. Meanwhile, in New York, the NYPD is all hands on deck tomorrow. They've canceled all vacations, and they want every single officer to show up in full uniform. New York City Mayor Eric Adams says while there is no credible threat at this time, there will be a lot of protests which could spiral out of control.
New York City is the most diverse city in the world, and protecting our residents is the most sacred responsibility that we have. We have directed the NYPD to surge additional resources to schools, houses of worship, to ensure that they are safe and that our city remains a place of peace.
Now, back here in Los Angeles, we reached out to the FBI field office in L.A. They tell us they are aware and are adding extra security measures tomorrow, Sean.
All right, Jeff Paul, thank you. Also tonight, backlash continuing to grow over.
So there's a reporting on Fox with Hannity. Here is Jack Pasek talking about it, and he's got Alex Stein on with him.
Folks, when we look at this situation from a wider scale, and we've got a piece up at Human Events that's going up. We were working on it late last night, and we have it up now today. It's a Human Events editorial. And it says that standing up for civilization is no vice. And we're starting to do this new series of Human Events editorials where we're basically saying this is coming from the Human Events team, sort of an editorial board, if you will. I work on it. Libby Emmons works on it. Our op-ed editor works on it. And this is very clear to us. Okay, if you are on the side of supporting terrorism, supporting communism, supporting leftism, that's not the side of civilization. That's not based. That's not based at all. That's actually disgusting. It's criminal. That's BLM. That's Hamas. That's Antifa. That's what happened in Waukesha. Okay. And when I say one side or the other, I'm not doing the George W. Bush thing, right? I'm saying that every civilization is going to face these criminal elements. This certain percentage that is just completely evil and must be dealt with thusly, because they are threats to your civilization. And that is why we support crushing them and crushing threats to civilization, whether it's crime, whether it's BLM, whether it's terrorism. I wanted to bring on, though, someone who is a terrorist himself, at least in terms of comedy. His name is Alex Stein, and apparently he's broken into the Human Events Daily Show. Mr. Stein, who are you and what are you doing here?
You know, I'm a pimp on a blimp, and you know who I represent. And yeah, I mean, I'm here to just kind of infiltrate this and dig my claws in and, you know, maybe hopefully take over the Human Events Daily Show. So we'll see.
Taking over the show. Now, I have to ask, so we're sitting here, it's Jihadoween. Tomorrow is the day of jihad. Tell me, how do you plan to celebrate the day of jihad tomorrow?
Well, you know, it's funny because I was actually about to fly to Miami, and now I'm like, should I fly? No, you know, I know we like to joke around,
Really?
but I think something's going to happen tomorrow. I hate to be like that. I hate to be like the mainstream media and say, you know, oh, we should all be scared. But I would not be surprised if something weird happened tomorrow because people are so radicalized right now on both sides. Now, I'm not saying Israelis are going to attack anywhere. I'm just saying these people would create Hamas in Dearborn, Michigan. They would create Hamas wherever they can. And I'm not saying that they're bad people, but they're radicalized people. They're propagandized people. So, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if something weird did happen tomorrow.
No, we said at the very top of the show, we had some audio issues. And so I'm not sure everybody heard it, but I'm going to say it again. If you live in one of these big cities, you know, go take the day off tomorrow, get out, just, you know, go off into the mountains or something. Don't be in town. Take the day off from work, you know, pull, you know, if you are worried, pull your kids out of school. If you are worried and you live in one of these big cities, I'm saying take it seriously, take serious precautions, use your own judgment, obviously. But for anybody who's flying tomorrow, anybody who's going to be in one of these big cities, yeah, you should definitely be careful.
Yeah, I know. And I'm not trying to like spread trauma-based mind control. We're on a show. There's going to be a lot of people that watch this. But on a serious note, these people are like, it's not a fair fight. It's like guerrilla warfare. I mean, they're like paragliding into your house and just killing whoever they can. So it's a terrorist organization, and you can't really fight terrorism. You know, a suicide bomber wants to blow you up, or suicide shooter. So I do think we need to be very careful.
When you say that phrase, trauma-based control, unpack that for the audience. What is trauma-based control?
Well, I mean, it's basically what CNN used, MSNBC. Whenever you watch the mainstream media during COVID, they constantly had a death tracker. They constantly keep you in this low vibrational state where you're just constantly getting negative feedback. You're always hearing about bad stuff. You're like not getting anything positive. So it's hard to have a positive world outlook when all you're hearing about is the bad. And then even like the good stories, you know, it's like a transgender teacher wins teacher of the year. You know, even the good stories are basically traumatic. So, you know, we got to get out of that negative feedback loop. But that's the way that they manipulate us the most, is through fear. And like, you don't have to be a conspiracy theorist to understand that during the pandemic, that was like the key in controlling all of us, was in fear of losing your job, and fear of getting sick, and fear of dying. So the government's best tool in controlling the population is scaring them into compliance.
No, I think that's exactly right. And they will use trauma, they'll use atrocities, they'll use the fear of what's to come in order to serve their ends, right? And that doesn't mean, by the way, that nothing's happening and that atrocities haven't happened and that terrible things haven't happened. But to your point, right? To your point, the government, the people in power, Joe Biden's not the one making decisions up there. No, they will use this to pursue their own agenda. We've seen it done. I mean, I can't even list how many times we've seen that done in the past. Why would we ever expect them to not do it again? I've said straight up two things. Number one, I've said, don't think for a second that they wouldn't cancel the 2024 election over an active armed conflict. And then number two, I said, don't be surprised if instead of the MAGA gulag start drafting, Trump supporters and then sending them over to fight in Iran.
No, that definitely could happen. And let me tell you, this is going to be like a kind of a hard thing to talk about, but I can talk about it with you because you're an adult. But this is the problem. With what's going on with the Hamas, we see these images, we see them at a music festival and they're shooting them. These are the worst atrocities that I've ever personally seen when it comes to like just, innocent people getting killed. But then there's fake video game footage and weird footage that, gets mixed in with that. So it kind of radicalizes people into thinking that there's not a real conflict going on. So that's why it's like what's going on now. It's actually really insane because it's hard to, I guess, understand really what is going on because we don't know it's real or fake. Like we know how terrible it is, but there's just so much misinformation out there. I think that is a big problem with this too, because as soon as somebody sees one fake thing, now they're like, oh, I don't support Israel. I'm on Palestine's side. And it's insane because people are that finicky. So that's the problem is that, when it comes to the trauma-based mind control, is people use fake traumatic stuff, then they'll get exposed for it. And then it kind of has a rebounding effect. So, it's a really weird day and age having modern warfare with Twitter and Instagram and social media.
And by the way, that doesn't even account for, because it's been only a couple of days, but wait until the deep fakes start rolling out. Wait until people start actually deliberately creating footage and putting it out there. There was this story that went super viral over the weekend saying that Israel had bombed the oldest Christian church in Gaza. And then the church itself had to actually post on Facebook and say, no, we're actually safe and we're holding refugees inside the church right now. I was like, what? They're in the middle of the bombing and they're actually able to post and say they're up there. So it just goes to show you that, look, and people got all over my case, right? And I talked about this actually at that event that you and I were at, where I said I was making those pre-creations of Joe Biden calling for a draft and putting everybody out to say, oh, why would you do that? Why would you do that? I said, to get people ready. Okay, to get people ready for what was coming, because I knew it was coming. You knew it was coming. We could see this stuff on the horizon. Guess what? Now we're in it. Now we're in it, ladies and gentlemen, and they're using some of the most horrific images. They'll use even worse images. And I worry that bad actors will take that stuff and try to put it into their own context and have it serve their own agenda. 30 seconds to break. Alex Stein.
That's exactly what they're going to do. They're going to use it to radicalize both sides. They're going to say this is an Israeli, this is a Palestinian, and you're not going to know who is dead. I mean, it's going to be very scary.
No, I think it's exactly right. Stay tuned, folks.
So, a lot there. Let me just say this. No matter what happens, God is still in control. And you might be asking, how could God allow this to happen? Look, it's not that God allows this to happen. Men will be men. Mankind will be mankind. And we are evil by nature. And we are at war. There are casualties in war. We're not at war against Israel or against Hamas or against Ukraine or against Russia or even against Joe Biden and his ilk. And Barack Hussein Obama. We are at war with the principalities and powers. We are at war because there are two kingdoms occupying the earth. There is the kingdom of Satan, the kingdom of this world, the prince of the power of the air, the prince of the power of this world, the angel of light. And there's the kingdom of God that was set up by Jesus Christ. And when you're like the guy on the cross who looks over and says, remember me when you come into your kingdom, You cross over. You are no longer a citizen of the kingdom of this world. You are a citizen of the kingdom to come, and you are now at a state of war with this world. The problem is that the Christian church puts on their armor, all except for the last part. In Ephesians, where it says that, somebody put the scripture on. It says, put on the whole armor of God. And the Christian church in the West puts on their armor. They put on their hat and put on their shoes, and they put on their breastplate and their belt. But the last one they don't pick up. Every piece of armor in that scripture is defensive. Your shield, your helmet, your shoes, your belt, the breastplate are all defensive. And the church goes into battle as warriors for Christ without weapons. Because the last one that you pick up is what? The last one it says. Somebody tell me what the last one is. When you put on your helmet, your shoes, and your breastplate, that's right, the sword of what? The sword of what? And you put all that armor on, it's the sword of what? It's not word. It's close. It's the sword of the Spirit. The sword of the Spirit. It's your power. It is the power of the name of Jesus Christ. It is the Holy Spirit working in the world. It is the power of God manifesting in you. And you go to battle disarmed. How can you help your fellow man who's held captive in bondage in the kingdom of this world? Yes, you're covered in armor, so you're protected. But how can you help your fellow man that's in bondage and tied up by the kingdom of this world if you go unarmed? You must pick up the sword. The sword is an offensive weapon. Everything else that you put on the armor of God is defensive. You must pick up the sword, and you must wield it. And you're saying, how do I do that? Ask God. Show me, teach me how to use your spirit as a weapon against the forces that we are fighting against. Because, church, if we don't stand up in the name of Jesus and fight for the souls of this world, and I know we got those trolls on here going, you're just talking about religion. Joe Biden said that we are in a battle for the soul of America. Joe Biden said that. Talk to him, not me. I'm just responding with truth. Truth that's thousands of years old, millennium old. That's eternity old. Not this new modern stuff that, we're this 2023, we're really enlightened now. Oh, you're so enlightened. How do they make the pyramids? Have no clue, do you? It was aliens. No, they were made by man. What's the second law of thermodynamics? It's the second law of the third law. Everything goes from perfection to chaos. We were perfect at one time. Try to put that egg back together and see what happens. The founder of Hamas, who lives in luxury in Qatar, has called to terrorists to attack across the globe on Friday. High risk, not just in the Middle East, but also in Europe and America, especially for Jewish targets. You might want to ask why we allow a terrorist leader to live freely in Qatar without any pressure on that government. You might want to ask, why? Why has nobody ever done anything to this guy as he lives in the lap of luxury? They lie to us. They lie to us about everything. You know, and the media can't even get their story straight, let alone anything else. They can't even get their story straight. They're so ridiculous. NBC News. Conservative social media influencers have shared speculation with no evidence that attacks on Israel will soon be followed by similar attacks in the U.S. The FBI says there's no information indicating credible terrorist threat in the U.S. That's because the FBI is going to do it. New York Post. NYPD orders all cops to report to in uniform after ex-Hamas chief calls for global protest. But there's no credible threats about nothing at all. Don't worry about it. But go back to sleep. It's fine. We're good. It's no problem. It's no problem. Nothing to see here, folks. And then you have this one. Here is yesterday on the Israeli-Jordan border. Jordanians, that's what you call them, as they try to push the fence over and enter Israel. And you see the tear gas and all stuff. Those evil Jews, they're using tear gas. Nope. King of Jordan orders military to suppress protests near the border with Israel. The King of Jordan is cutting this up. Now, Jordan is pretty much a pretty good American ally. Again, everything we've been told. You can't believe anything. You can't believe anything that you hear. You can't even believe what you're seeing. I'm going to play portions of this video. I'm not going to play the whole video.
So I'm sitting here thinking, so this Hamas leader puts out this warning to the world of international jihad on Friday the 13th. Now, I'm not saying they're going to do it. They're not going to do it. Whether or not it's a scare tactic, of course, this is the definition of terrorism, for people to be afraid to go and do anything. That's where they get their power from.
If there was, it's probably false.
For these jihadists. See, the problem is you've been ill-informed. You've been shuttled into these sanctuary cities where you see a bunch of limp-wristed, feminized men, and you think that we are all like that. Your perception is based off of content that is left-leaning, meaning that us conservatives, we're censored. So your idea of what you think American men are like are completely twisted. And I get it. And I will say, you will have some victories in our cities. There's no doubt about it. I mean, for one thing, they've disarmed everyone in our major cities a long time ago for this very reason. So you'll get some wins. And when you get your wins, you're going to televise it all over the world, and they're going to talk about it, and everyone's going to be afraid of you. except for the real men in America. You see where I'm from, for example, we have over 700,000 registered deer hunters. That's just to put it kind of into perspective. These men literally sit in the trees and are crack shots and sit around all day long and wait for something to pop off. And that's just talking about hunters. I mean, we're not talking about all the able-bodied people that are loaded to the teeth with firearms and ammunition. Men that just sit around sharpening knives and polishing up their guns and stocking up, just wishing them up wood. You know what I'm saying? You see, your perspective of American men are twisted. You think because you have been pushed into these cities and you get the perspective from these cities that we're all that way. Let me tell you something. Holy hell will be unleashed upon you when you leave those cities and you come out here to the outskirts and think for 1 second that you're going to get some victories out here. We're here, we're waiting, and we will oblige everything that you're asking for. I promise you that.
There's a difference between the folks that live in the cities and the folks that live in the country. There's a difference between the folks, these, as I call them, as I talk about my wife, to say to my wife, I say, oh, don't you wish you had one of them latte drinking, loafer wearing, man bun dudes as a husband instead of some old ogre like me. Oh, there's a difference. I'm just saying. Ooh, he's got a gun. Ooh, I'm scared. I remember there was a gal from Chicago and I'd repossessed her car and she called the police on me. She came down to my car lot with the police. And I had my gun concealed on me, but my wife was open carrying at the time. And she comes out of the office and that gal goes, she got a gun. She got a gun. Oh my God, she got a gun. And the cop just looked at her like, and? Because in Missouri, it's legal and there's nothing they could do about it. In Chicago, where she was from, they all have guns too. Just not supposed to. Do me a favor. Help support the show by checking out the Liquid Bile Cell. If you haven't done so yet, why not? This stuff has changed my life. It'll probably do the same for you. You know, this simple little bottle right here, I was suffering. I don't know about you, but turning 52 was kind of rough. 50 was rough. 49 was rough. 35 was rough. You know, being in the military and doing the things that I did when I was younger paid a price. You know, I was suffering from the snap, the crackle, the creaking, and the pop. You know, oh my goodness, was I ever suffering. But I started taking this product and it changed everything for me. And what it does is it helps with your mobility and lubricates your joints. Supports cardiovascular health, improves skin hydration, firmness, and tone. It's really good for your skin and hair and nails and stuff. I gotta clip my nails like every 15 minutes. It's ridiculous. And it does it with a collagen HA matrix technology. Your body used to produce collagen, but as you get older, it produces less and less and less. And that causes you to have problems. Goodbye. Somebody's on there posting their links. That causes you to have problems as you get older. That's why your skin gets thinner and your nails get brittle and your hair doesn't grow as much and you start getting the aches and pains in the joints and the muscles and all that stuff. Well, this takes care of some of that. It's a natural substance that has no harsh chemicals, nothing like that. It's perfectly safe for your body. And here's the thing. All the active ingredients are listed right on the website and you can go check it out for yourself. It's multi-patented, multi-tested, sold around the world. It's a multi-billion-dollar product. Millions and millions of people have bought this product and say that they swear by it. Several people in the comments the other day was talking about how good it's helped them. And just a spoonful a day will chase the snap, the crackle, the creaking, and the pop away. I'm telling you, you will feel better if you take it. I've had several people tell me they didn't notice a difference till they stopped taking it. That's right. It kind of sneaks up on you. You just don't realize that you aren't hurting as bad as you was. And for the ladies, and only the ladies, not the guys that want to be ladies, we have this right here. It's called OVA. This OVA is changing the game for ladies. It is help for the PMS symptoms. You take these pills, and they're different color coded because there's 3 distinct formulas for before, during, and after that change the game for ladies. All those symptoms go away. It helps to normalize your hormones levels without harsh chemicals or hormones or any other stuff that the pharmaceutical companies want to sell you. Most of it's made out of petroleum. Oh, you're stepping on toes now, Mark. This stuff's all natural, healthy, good for you. If you want to know how to get your hands on these products, just go over to the Patriot Mike Show fan page on Facebook. Just go to Facebook, type Patriot Mike Show. While you're there, subscribe. Okay. Scroll down to see my wife's beautiful face where she's eating the chocolate sauce, makes your pants fall off. It is a product called Trim. It tastes like chocolate, comes in other flavors, vanilla, pina colada, lime, or lemon. This time of year, they usually come out with like a salted caramel or something like that. The fantastic product. My wife's lost over 20 pounds on that product alone right there. And isn't she gorgeous? And you can get your hands on that product too to make a difference. Just go over there to the Patriot Mike Show fan page, comment that you want to know more. We'll send you a link. It'll save you a few bucks off your first purchase. It's like a coupon code. It's like the My Pillow guy. And if you don't want to do that, you can send me a message on any of these platforms. You're watching on any platform that has Messenger, you can send me a message and we'll send you the link. Or you can text message me to 660-620-2644 or send an email to patriotmikeshow@gmail.com. It's that simple. Send you a link. Also, look, I have 4 spots full available. No, just kidding. Look, if you want your own promo code so you can share this with your friends, families, neighbors, if 10 regular customers buying all the time, it's a couple $100 a month. Just think about that for a minute. A couple $100 a month will change people's lives. Could be the difference between them foreclosing on your home or not. Things are about to get really rough. Having a second, I had a friend call me up just the other day. Good friend. I've known him for years. And he called me up and said, I was thinking I need to diversify my income. I kind of have all my eggs in one basket. How's that BioCell thing work? And I was like, well, it's real simple. It's not easy. I'll tell you that right now. Nothing is easy. Nothing worthwhile is easy, but it is simple. So, all right, back to the show. I know. You're just grifting. Shut up. I don't care. Here is, just give you an idea of what's going on. This was in Philadelphia yesterday.
I think that we should all give an applaud right now to Hamas for a job well done. When they woke up in the morning and they found the field hands in the house with a knife ready to cut their fucking throats. I was late to the news, but when I heard it, I smiled. I don't want to hear that bullshit. 250 innocent Israelis are dead. Fuck them. Again, I swear, I salute Hamas. A job well done.
They want to paint it here in America and to us that what happened yesterday was terrorism. What happened yesterday was freedom fighters fighting for freedom. And I want to make one point. Every person that died yesterday was not innocent. It's all.
Sorry, I got to take care of somebody out here propping up their stuff. We don't do that on my show. Don't share links. You can share links, you get blocked. You want to promote your show? Promote your show. Just if you want to promote it on my show, you got to pay me. Yes. I built 3 years trying to build an audience, and it's not easy when they cut you off and all this stuff. Now, just give you an idea of what we're fighting against. Just think about this for a second. The Iron Dome, Israel's defense against rockets, is $150,000 a rocket when they launch those. Just remember, just think about this. Just think about this. This is how Hamas makes their rockets. They're actually digging up water pipe out of the ground. So there you have Hamas digging up water in the desert, water pipes in the desert, to turn them into rockets because they care about their people. Think about that for a minute. Because they care about their people so much, they're digging up their water supply to go and kill Israelis. Colonel Douglas McGregor says this: the world may change dramatically as a result of the Israeli-Hamas war. For Israel, it's deadly serious. If Hezbollah sits this out, the IDF will systematically crush Gaza. Serious attacks from southern Lebanon will stretch the IDF ground force to the limit. It may be that anger and disgust across the Muslim world with the destruction of Gaza and its people eventually provokes a larger war that would involve Iran and even Turkey. Egypt will be unable to sit it out. Jordan may fall apart under the pressure of internal unrest. So there's pointing out, that's just pointing out the reality of where we are right now. We have World War III getting ready to break out. And our media doesn't care. Our media is all about the agenda. It's all about politics. It's all about what their program masters tell them to say. Now, this man on the street interview, this guy, we see him all the time doing man on the streets. I placed a lot of his videos. Here he is asking a lady whose side she's on, Israel or Hamas. And listen to what she says.
In some of the clips and stuff from what's going on with the Israel-Palestine war? Who do you want to win?
I'm not for sure, because if I vote for that side and they're not worshiping God, it'd be my fault. Then if I vote for that side and they're not worshiping God, then it'd be my fault.
So you want God to win?
God is the only way. I believe in him. I walk by faith every day. If I vote for that president and they don't believe in God, then I'll be voting for that president. I said, God, I'm not going to vote no more until I hear a president start talking about you. Like Kennedy and Martin Luther King, they was coming together for God. But if a president ain't coming together for God and I vote for him, I'm down on God's side.
Yeah, I agree.
This is his world.
It's his kingdom.
Exactly. He's in control. I say, God, you're my president. This is your world. And you already done told me what you want me to do in your United States. And I walk by faith and not by sight. I act like I'm his every day. And I'm teaching these little kids how to be his child. He said, train up a child in the way they should go so they won't be depart from him. So I'm on his side 24 hours a day.
Do you think that World War III is coming?
I can't say. But if it is, I'm on the battlefield fighting for my God. And I promise him that I will serve him till I die. That's my weapon if it comes. He'll never leave us or forsake us.
God bless you. Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Let his love shine.
I will.
I love you.
I love you
We
too.
are family. So you believe in God?
Oh, of course.
If you believe in God, guess what?
This is the cameraman. He believes in God, most definitely.
Guess what? Since you believe in God and I believe in God, and you believe in God, guess what? We are family.
I didn't watch that all the way to the end. I skipped the last couple of seconds. She's amazing. It's all about, if we just all focused on that, Christians, if you just focused on that right there, that was your response, what a testimony it would be. General Flynn said this: our leaders must accept that in the last 3 years of the Biden administration, serial American appeasement abroad, disunity at home, and social chaos have encouraged an entire host of enemies: China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, Middle East, illiberal regimes, and former friends like Turkey and Qatar. And our enemies dream of doing to us what we just saw in Israel. Get ready. Get ready. Because our enemies are not going to take a break just because, well, we want to feel good. Our enemies, the enemies, I mean, look, let me just put it to you this way. Satan doesn't care if you're a Christian or not. He wants you dead. Doesn't care if you're a preacher or if you're a Jew or if you're a Muslim or if you're a Hindu. He wants you dead. He wants you dead. He wants you dead. He doesn't care if the West rises up to conquer the Muslims and the Muslims rise up to conquer the West and China rises up to conquer them all and Russia rises up to conquer Europe and Europe rises up to conquer Russia. He doesn't care. Just wants you dead. Everybody die. That's all he cares about. He comes to what? Steal, kill, and destroy. He wants you dead. He wants you dead. He wants you dead. That's it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. None. Here's a story out of the Daily Mail about everything that's going on. An Israeli billionaire says he and his wife are quitting the board of Harvard University, famous Kennedy School of Business, over the school's president's response to the surprise Hamas attacks in Israel. Eden Ofer is the founder of Eastern Pacific Shipping, reportedly worth over $14 billion, according to Forbes. His wife, Beta, is an art collector and a descendant of Holocaust survivors. Beta Ofer told the Hebrew language outlet The Maker that she and her husband are both quitting the school's executive board over President Claude Gray's response to 31 Harvard organizations signing a letter placing the blame on Israel for Hamas's brutal attack that have killed over 1,500. Their actions are in protest to a shocking, insensitive response by the president of the university, who did not condemn the letter by the student organizations who blasted Israel for the massacre or blamed Israel for the massacre. We write to you today, heartbroken by the death and destruction unleashed by the attack by Hamas and the targeted citizens in Israel this weekend, and by the war in Israel and Gaza now underway, Harvard administrators wrote in a statement from Monday credited to Gray. The statement, lack of explicit condemnation of the terrorist group Hamas, incited outrage from many Harvard alums. Gay had issued a follow-up statement clarifying his words on Tuesday. As events of the recent days continue to reverberate, let there be no doubt that I condemn the terrorist atrocities perpetrated by Hamas, she wrote. Such inhumanity is abhorrent. Whatever one's individual views of the origins of longstanding conflicts in the region. So it's bad what they did, but it's still the Jews' fault. For the Ofers, one of the wealthiest families in Israel, with Aden, a majority shareholder of the country's largest holding companies and co-owner of the soccer powerhouse Atletico Madrid, the statement clearly isn't enough. Harvard has yet to respond with a comment on the matter. The organizations released a letter to the public as a joint statement by Harvard Palestine solidarity groups on the situation in Palestine, on the situation in Israel, because there is no Palestine, on Sunday, to condemn Israel in the wake of the violence. Several Kennedy school groups were signatories. They claim Hamas attacks, which are still ongoing, did not happen in a vacuum, and that the Israeli government has forced Palestinians to live in an open-air prison for over 2 decades. You know, it was in the 80s, under Ronald Reagan, the Yasser Arafat, was offered statehood, independent nation, a nation that would have been called Palestine. He turned it down. Hamas's charter is the death of all Jews worldwide. And the death of Christians. That's their charter. That's why they exist. How do you negotiate with that? Well, just kill half of us. Just kill the ones over 50. Save the children. How do you negotiate with that? You know, it's like Planned Parenthood. By the way, Planned Parenthood's very, very upset because Israel bombed the one Planned Parenthood establishment they had in Gaza. They blew it up. So now they can't perform any more abortions over there. So Israel's upset with that. Or not Israel. Planned Parenthood is upset with that. I mean, I don't see a problem with it. Speaking of, listen to this. This is true. This is breaking. We have confirmed the images of babies who were beheaded. It's actually worse. Some of their limbs were removed. Babies cut to pieces, treated like garbage. Most inhumane thing I've ever seen. Whoever was responsible for this deserves to die. It's called abortion, and it's legal in several states in the United States. Millions of babies have faced that. Yet our media, who all stand by and say that Margaret Sanger was a hero and Planned Parenthood is the altar to their God, who worship at that altar and praise abortion. It's a woman's right to choose. You know, you can choose by crossing your legs. Oh, I know that hurts. But they kill millions of babies every day. But they're only upset about the images that they fake to get you fired up so that we can start the draft and start sending Americans to go die in Iran. Well, by the way, MAGA. They want MAGA to go die in Iran. They won't send their children, just yours. What was it, Tika? What was it when we were kids? Put an aspirin between your knees. Hold it there. Iran urges U.S. to control Israel to avert regional war. The United States must rein in Israel to avert a regional spillover of war with Hamas, Iran's top diplomat said Friday in Beirut, adding Tehran will seek to safeguard Lebanon's security. Foreign Minister Hassan Amar Abadalhain, or whatever, Yabadabadu, spoke as Hamas and Israel traded heavy fire for a seventh day after hundreds of Hamasan gunmen stormed across the border from Gaza into Israel on Saturday and killed 1,200 people. Plus, Israel has retaliated by raining air and artillery strikes on Hamas targets in the Gaza Strip, leaving more than 1,350 people dead. America wants to give Israel a chance to destroy Gaza, and this is a grave mistake, Abadabadu said, adding, if Americans want to prevent the war in the region from developing, they must control Israel. So we must allow Hamas to come in and slaughter innocent men, women, and children who are not combatants. But when you pick the fight, when you F around and find out, please don't let me find out. I don't want to know. Although Tehran has been a long-term backer of Palestinian Islamist group Hamas, Iran officials have been adamant that the Islamic Republic had nothing to do, no involvement in the militant group's weekend attack on Israel. Look to hold off a spillover into fighting into Lebanon. Follow border tensions Rita's Day. Abadabadu arrived in Beirut on Thursday night following a stop in Baghdad. Notice where allegiances are being formed. Lebanon's security and peace is important to us, said Abadabadu. After a meeting with Lebanese Prime Minister, I'm going to try to say that name. One of the goals of the trip was to stress on Lebanon security. And so the United States needs to control Israel. I say we don't have a president that will do this, but I say we tell Iran, look, here's the deal. We know you're involved. We know you did this. We know you paid for it. If you want to pick a bigger war, let's go. But I highly suggest you stand down and let Israel do what they have to do. But we won't do that. We won't do that because we don't have the guts. Reuters is reporting yesterday. United States must prepare for possible simultaneous wars with Russia and China by expanding its conventional forces, strengthening allies, and enhancing its nuclear weapons modernization program. A congressionally appointed bipartisan panel said on Thursday, spend more money, spend more money, spend more money. You know, there was a time when our military was big enough, powerful enough. When I was in the military, we had Stinger missiles. It cost about $100,000 per Stinger missile, about $50,000 per Stinger missile. Now it's like $450,000 for Stinger missiles. Same Stinger missiles. You know, have you ever noticed how laptops or computers get cheaper and cheaper, and TVs over time, and more technology and better? That's how technology brings the price down. Stinger missiles are 30 some odd years old, 40 years old. They were using Stinger missiles in the war in Afghanistan in the 70s and 80s against Russia. And yet they're way, not counting for inflation, way more expensive. Or counting for inflation even, they're way more expensive. Why is that? I'll tell you why. 10% for the big guy. That's why. A report from the Strategic Posture Commission comes amid terrorists over China tensions with China over Taiwan and other issues, and worsening fractions with Russia over its invasion in Ukraine. A senior official involved in the report declined to say if the panel's intelligence briefings show any Chinese or Russian nuclear weapons cooperation. We worry there may be ultimate coordination between them in some way, which gets us to this two-war construct. The official said in condition of anonymity, yeah, no one will go on the record and say things anymore. The findings would up in current U.S. national security strategy, calling on winning one conflict while deterring another, and require huge defense spending increases with, of course it would, uncertain congressional support. We do recognize the budget realities, but we also believe that the nation must make these investments. The Democratic chair, Madeleine Creedon, a former deputy head of the agency that oversees U.S. nuclear weapons, and the vice chair John Coyle, how we say it, retired Republican senator, said in the report's preface. So basically, we can't fight two wars with near peers, but we're staring down two wars with near peers right now. And we don't build weapons to fight two wars. You take a look at what's going on over in Ukraine and you find out our stuff ain't as good as we thought. Sure, it worked great in Afghanistan when we were fighting a third world country that was one step away from being cavemen. Sure, it worked good in the 1990s, early 1990s, when we took on the fourth largest army in the world using strict Soviet doctrine with top-line Soviet technology and the M1 main battle tank and the A-10 and the F-16, the F-15, the F-14, blew everything out of the water. But we'll be take a look at what's going on over in Ukraine right now. Russia's manufacturing is outpacing the entire West in artillery, in guns, and bullets. We are depleting our stockpiles while they are replenishing theirs at record rates. Part of the problem is they don't have a communist fascist government anymore like we do. They abandoned theirs. They reset 1994 and developed a new system, got away from communism, streamlined, when we bloated ours out. Since the beginning of the Bush administration, the number one hirer in the world, the number one job hirer in the world has been the United States government. We have a commo-fascist government. We have a fascist economy, public-private partnerships. And we have a communist government. What do you mean we have democracy, don't you? We got to save you just don't like democracy. Communists love democracy. What do I mean by that? Every decision that's made is not made by our elected officials. It's made by a bureaucracy somewhere. Thousands upon hundreds of thousands of nameless, faceless bureaucrats in a faraway land make a decision on how much water you can have in your pond, etc., etc., etc. That's communism. It's a Politburo. And then these nameless, faceless politicians get to live high on the hog on the government dime. It's no longer a sacrifice to work for the government where you got paid a lot less than you can make in the public sector like it was 50 years ago. You just got really good bennies at the end. It's now the highest per capita income on the planet is in the DC metro area. And these people, these career bureaucrats making $150,000 or $200,000 a year, that's why we can't make tanks and planes and boats. That's why the arsenal of the world during World War II no longer exists, because of all the bull crap. I'll never forget the story. Donald Trump was giving a speech somewhere, and he said he was over in China. I remember read it in one of his books. I don't remember. He was over in China, and China was building an island to make an airport on. And he said, I've never seen so many trucks. They were trucks for miles and miles and miles, dump trucks. And they go out and they dump into the ocean. And they go out and they dump into the ocean. They go out and dump. And they're moving this peninsula out to build this airport. Dump and dump and dump and dump. And he asked the counterparts, he said, how long did it take you to get all the paperwork, all the red tape, all the EPA, all that stuff done? And they looked at him like he was crazy. He said, what do you mean? He said, the reports to say the hazards and get all of the process and paperwork and all that approval by the government and all that stuff. And they said, well, there's none of that. We just decided to do it, so we did it. He goes, what about all the environmental impact and all that stuff? They looked at him and said, the ocean is big. I'm not saying we should I'm not saying we should neglect being clean. I'm just saying that there's a bunch of bull crap that we don't need that's going to cost us our country. And we need to stand up and we need to say no. And we need to, and I don't know what the solution is other than God, because I don't know how you change it other than God. By the way, the stock market, which was 300 points high, is now down to $30 in the positive, and the NASDAQ is down 119. S&P 500 is down 12, but gold is up $51 today. Just telling you, it's a crazy day. So today's the day that worldwide jihad happens. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe nothing will happen. Keep your head on a swivel. Stay out of large crowds. Make sure you got a few extra dollars out of the bank. Make sure you got a little gold, a little silver, a little beanie weenies sitting around. Maybe a bottle of water or two. Make sure you top off your gas tank this morning in your car. Or not. Don't. I don't care. Your problem, not mine. Just be safe. Don't be like the victims over in Israel that the government disarmed and they had no clue. They counted on their government to protect them. They counted on their military to protect them. You know, it's like the old saying goes, when seconds count, the cops are only minutes away. The cops will come and put tape around your body, cover you with a nice bag, put crime scene stuff up and make a report. Or you can defend yourself and the report will be the guy that's coming in. Your choice. We are in, we're getting closer every day. And I don't know when it's going to happen, but this whole thing is going to implode. The financial, the Hollywood, the sports, the government, the entire West. I don't know when, but get ready. Look, grocery stores are open today. Today, go out, buy yourself an extra can of beanie weenies, maybe a bag of rice, maybe, stock up on a few things. You won't regret it. If you don't need it, you can eat it later. But if you need it and don't have it, you'll be standing out in line fighting for the last can of beanie weenies. And you don't want to be that person. You guys have a great day. Patriot Mike is out.